Hi everyone, it's Tanya with Riley and Company here with another video from our Coloring with Tanya video series. This time we are going to color one of my favorite stamps we have, the little possum. And the reason is there's a little story behind Penny. Penny's the possum. And I will tell you that while I color. So check her out. This is the adorable little Penny. Isn't she cute? Most people think possums and they're like, oh, they're terrifying. They're really not. Let me tell you the little story. Penny came about because I went out to check my pool skimmer one day and there was this little creature hanging on for dear life to the water skimmer. And I didn't know what it was, so I grabbed my gloves and got it out, and it was the most adorable little possum I've ever seen in my life. They are not scary. They are so misunderstood. So I dried her off and I got her wits back with her and released her back where she belongs so she can go see her family. So I named her Penny and made a stamp. And that's how this came about. So we are going to color her today. It's very, very simple. Possums in general are mostly light underneath and they have darker hair on top. I'm starting with a C0, and then I'm going to 1, and then I'm going to 3, 5, 7, and 8. These are all C colors, C, which is a cool gray. This is a W3 and a W5, and this is an RV10. And that's all the colors we're going to use. If you don't have all of these colors, just pull out the grays that you do have. Now the first color that we are going to put on her, I believe, let's take a C0. We will start with that. If you don't have a 0, go ahead and use your 1 to start with. Her tummy and her face are going to be almost all white, but I don't want it to be pure white. I just want to add a little color. So I'm going to bring this in, and I'm going to do both of them at the same time because they're going to look the same. One has a kick and one has a stand. Then I'm going to just make sure all of my edges are nice and colored in like that. That's all I'm going to use my 0 for, is just, maybe I'll use a little bit on her nose. Just from her little snout outside to the inside, that's all. Just a little bit. Now that's all I'm going to use my C0 for. I'm going to come back in with my C1 and I'm going to add color to her hands. I'm going to add color to her head. And most of this color will be covered up. I'm just laying a nice base for my alcohol markers to blend with. And that, and the little paws. And I'm going to go around what I've already colored, just the outside edge, just to give it a little tiny bit of depth, okay? I'm going to do the same on this one. Now that was my C1. And we are done with that. Very little color, but it will make a difference. You'll see in a little while. Now, one tip that I will give you, we are making the master copy right now. When you are done with this, you will have 2 fully colored possums. So instead of cutting them out with the dies right away, we're going to put this in a binder and save it. And then when I want to use a possum on any of my dress-up sets, I'm just going to bring out my master and color copy it. Yes. So next let's grab our C3 and we are going to color in most of her little gray areas. It would not be her face, so it's going to be more on the outside, and we're going to leave this inside part alone, okay? Now I'm going to take the same marker You can use with alcohol markers, you can use the same marker a second time to help you shade. And so that's what I'm going to do. I left a little bit off up here because the light is going to be coming down from the top. A lot of people ask me, how do I figure out where to shade and not to shade? I draw an imaginary line generally when I do this, and that's going to be my lightest spot. And I just touch the paper when I shouldn't have. And I'll show you how to get rid of that in a minute. But for now, I'm just going to go back over everything and fill this little guy in as well. Now when I shade the second time with this, I'm not going to go over all of the area. I'm going to go over about half of what I did with the shading, or with the original first time that I used the C3. Now I'm done with my C3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in with my C1. In any areas that seem a bit too harsh, that the division is a little bit too harsh, I'm just going to use little bitty circles and just blend it in to soften the lines. That's all I'm doing. All right. See, it's very simple. It's just figuring out where your light's coming from. That's all. Now we are going to go on to C5, and we're going to use very, very little color with this. We're going to use it very sparingly. So right now we're at this color. This is just the shadows. Just very little amounts. And little possums have marks on their ears, little dark marks on their ears. If you ever look at pictures, they have these little dark marks. They're just so cute. Possums are so misunderstood. When I found her in my pool, I'm going to go ahead and shade while I talk to you and give you a little lesson on possums. But when I found her in my pool, I didn't exactly know what to do with her. I knew I wanted to save her, so I looked up this amazing site. I found this amazing site. It's called Ferncroft Wildlife Rescue, and figured out kind of what to do with her. And they are amazing. They had information on their site. Possums are very, very misunderstood little creatures. Now they do have lots of teeth, and if you get near them, they will kind of do their little hissing thing, but that's their only defense. They're not aggressive. They will not attack you. If you try to pick them up, they might try to bite, but rarely would they ever do that. They're not aggressive towards any other animals. And the only defense that they have is to show their fangs, or when they get really, really nervous, they play dead. And sometimes it's a chemical response in their little bodies that make them go still like that. But it's also a defense that they have. So if you ever see possums, don't try to hurt them. They're great for the ecosystem. They eat lots of bugs, and they're meticulous little groomers. But this Ferncroft Rescue, sometimes they can't be put back in the wild, so they take them around to schools and they show them to students, and they educate them on how fabulous little possums are. And they're cute. I mean, really, really, really cute. So I'm done with my C5. I'm going to take my C3 and I'm going to go back in and I'm going to blend the spots that I think are a little too harsh. And when you're coloring possums, they don't have to be identical because they all are certainly not identical. But they do have specific markings on them that they usually have. The little dark spots in their ears. And they are the only marsupial in North America. They carry their little babies in a pouch when they're born. All right. And there we have that. Now, sometimes there is brown. Now, depending on how I color this, I can use the 7 or the 8 to make my darkest shadows. In this case, I don't have a lot of color on this, so I think I'm just going to go with my 7. I'm going to leave the 8 alone unless I need it. Now, all I'm going to do with the 8 is just come back in the darkest areas. I'm not going to put a whole lot. Just a teeny bit, like in this little black mark in her ear. This one's going to have a different mark. You can create your own little possums by making their own little marks on their ears. All right. Now we have that. We are done with that. We are just going to make her a little pink nose. They have pink noses. They're so cute. And I'm going to do the little pink paws. And I'm going to put a little pink on their hands. They don't have fur on their hands. They just have the cutest little nails. And I think I'm just going to put a really light on her little cheeks. And I'm going to bring a little bit inside the ears. And on the hands. And maybe just a little on her tail. Just to give it a little bit of fun. Now, sometimes the possums have a little bit of brown on them, so I added a couple grays that are more to the warm side. That's what the W stands for. So I think I'm just going to bring in my W3 on this. It's not going to shade, it's not going to shadow. I'm just going to bring some in just right along this edge and maybe on the top here, just to bring a little bit of brown in. There's really no rhyme or reason. I'm not coloring the whole thing because it's just a little hint of brown is all that I want. And the last thing we do is color, or put a little bit of blue in her eyes. And to do that, I am going to use a B000. I use this on almost every animal that I do, and you will see if you just add a little bit of blue, it makes their eyes pop so much. And there we have it. I always put my colors down here so I know what I use later if I want to recreate it. So that is B000. This is Dress Up Penny from our Dress Up series. If you don't know what the Dress Up series is, you have to go check it out. We have over 40 sets of clothing and accessories that you can dress her up. So think paper dolls, but with really super cute animals. So make sure you head out to Riley & Company online and check them out. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you come back next time. Have a fabulous day.